Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings released to great critical acclaim in December of 2001, and was quickly given the title of perhaps the best movie adaptation of all time. It is by far one of my favorite movie trilogies, and perhaps some of the most beautiful cinema ever put to the screen. Despite this positive reception, one of the largest criticisms leveled at this film was some of the changes made to certain characters. A large amount of the characters in the film were altered so much from the books that many people believed it changed the core essence of who they were as people and what their stories were intended to tell. Normally, I always side with creative freedom. It is important for filmmakers to be able to make changes to existing stories in order to better adapt them to film and in order to share new ideas. However, in this special case, I believe some of these changes harmed the characters of the films enough to change public perception of them, and more importantly, perception of the meanings behind them. Boromir, the son of Denethor, the Steward of Gondor, is one of these characters. I can't tell you the amount of people who I've watched this film with that have experienced a disdain or distrust for him until his ultimate death at the end of the film. Even more, I think, still don't like him once the movie has ended. I've heard many cite him as selfish, weak, and cowardly, citing him as an untrustworthy person from the start of the film. People who think this way greatly misinterpret the meaning of this character, and in turn miss the whole point of the Lord of the Rings story, that no matter how dark and hopeless things may seem, you always have the choice to do what's right. J.R.R. Tolkien, the original author of The Lord of the Rings, as well as numerous other books that take place in Middle-earth, has always claimed that the core story of his mythology was the ennoblement of man. This is the idea of elevating an originally weak and evil race to be the inheritors and caretakers of the earth. While the overarching story of this plot has to do with the interbreeding of elves, angels, and men in order to create a better race of men to protect the earth, I think The Lord of the Rings takes a much more real-world adaptation of this story. The idea of what makes a good man and what makes a bad man. Is a man simply good because he does good things? Is a man simply evil because he makes mistakes? One of the first things we learn about men in these stories is that they are viewed as the weakest and most easily corrupted race in all of Middle-earth. And oh, how accurate that is to real life. In a world filled with powerful, immortal, and pure beings, men are characterized as afraid and weak, truly a fallen people. The audience is meant to view the story of Middle-earth through the eyes of these men, as it is a fantastical depiction of the struggles of real life. And Boromir specifically is the character that most represents us in the film. When introduced to the roster of the Fellowship, he stands out from the others. You have the mighty wizard Gandalf, Aragorn, heir to the throne of Gondor, Legolas and Gimli, who are both princes of their respective peoples. Even the hobbits, Frodo, Merry, and Pippin, are considered aristocrats in Hobbit society, which leaves us with just two characters, Samwise Gamgee and Boromir. Tolkien himself has said that Sam is the true hero and main character of the story, but that's the topic for another time. But it's important to recognize Boromir's connection to him as the most simple character of the Fellowship. Boromir, in theory, has a resume to match his peers. He is the heir to the stewardship of Gondor, High Captain of the Kingdom's armies, and what many would be considered to be the greatest man of Middle-earth. But that's the thing. At the end of the day, he is just a man. And men are far from perfect. It's important to note that Aragorn is not someone to compare to Boromir, as Aragorn is of both Númenórean and Elvish descent, and maintains the wisdom and age of greater peoples. Aragorn is a key player in the overall mythology of The Lord of the Rings, and Middle-earth as a whole. Boromir may be a son of Gondor, but his place in the mythology of Middle-earth is of no true significance. At the end of the day, he's a nobody. He's just like us. Despite being one of the lowest on the Fellowship totem pole, Boromir has had more than his fair share of the fight. He has been battling hand-to-hand, face-to-face with the forces of Sauron since he was a young child, while the other peoples of Elrond's council have lived in relative peace for years. It is the blood of Gondor that protects them, the blood of his people that keeps them safe. As the son of an aging father, he has been given this incredible responsibility of leading the forces of good against pure evil in the face of impossible odds. Gondor can't beat the forces of Mordor. It's only a matter of time before they are destroyed. Boromir knows this, and so do the people. The fear and helplessness are overwhelming, and people lose faith. When the steward Denethor discovers that Elrond, Lord of Rivendell, has discovered the One Ring and has called a meeting, he tasks his son with bringing the ring back to Gondor, as he views it as the only hope they have left against the forces of evil. Despite his own fear, Boromir recognizes the ring is not something to be trifled with, but out of desperation for his people, and even more so to honor his father's wishes, he sets out to Rivendell anyway. When he first meets the rest of the Fellowship, he harbors resentment towards them. He believes the sacrifice of his people has been overlooked, and when presented with an heir to the throne of Gondor, something that should bring him hope, all he sees is abandonment. For a brief moment, he contemplates using the ring, but is quickly brought to his senses by the council. Notice how when the Fellowship pledge themselves to Frodo's quests, all of their responses are individual.
You have my sword. And you have my bow.
And my axe.
Boromir, on the other hand, carries the responsibility of his entire people on his shoulders, saying,
If this is indeed the will of the council, then Gondor will see it done.
Not himself, Gondor. This seemingly simple line is perhaps the most important characterization of Boromir in the entire film. It's what sets him apart. He sets himself apart as a man who is brave enough to put aside his own desires and fears in order to do what needs to be done for the good of the world. That is what a true hero is. Though greatly tempted by the ring throughout their journey, Boromir does his best to remain true to their quest, making friends with Merry and Pippin and regularly putting the safety of others before his own. However, it doesn't last. His tipping point comes at the death of Gandalf, their leader, the member of the Fellowship who most embodied hope for a better future. With his death, Boromir succumbs to his fear and buckles under the immense pressure and expectations that have been levied upon him. He is unable to hold the gaze of Galadriel when she tells him that there is still hope, and confides in Aragorn that even though she says so, he does not see it. This descent into darkness culminates in Boromir attempting to take the ring from Frodo by force, before quickly coming to his senses, yelling that he is sorry into the distance as Frodo flees from him. For many, this is where the story ends. Life beats us down, and we are left feeling alone and helpless. We fail those around us and destroy our closest relationships. We get knocked to the floor, and as the countdown to KO starts, we feel like there is no point in going on. But you always have a choice.
Creed just got up like a man possessed.
Unresigned to the depths of his failure, Boromir rushes to the defense of his friends once again, throwing himself into harm's way to protect those he cares about. He battles countless enemies with overwhelming odds in an incredible display of courage, skill, honor, and bravery. Even as he's struck by many arrows, on his knees at the very end, he looks up to see the faces of Merry and Pippin, and is reminded once again why he still fights. In a feat of superhuman strength, he rises to his feet and fights until the bitter end, without any fear left in his eyes. When Aragorn reaches his side, his first concern is that Merry and Pippin were taken. Even in the end, Boromir cares more about others than himself. He takes the ultimate step of courage by admitting his failures to Aragorn, about how he tried to take the ring, and how he believes he's failed them all.
I tried to take the ring from him. Forgive me. I did not see. I have failed you all.
But Aragorn assures him that he has kept his honor. At peace with his actions, and with hope for a better future, Boromir claims that he would have followed his brother, his captain, his king, to the very end, before laying his head to rest. We all make mistakes, and at many times we feel like failures. How can you possibly have hope when the world can feel so dark, so lost? But failure is what makes us strong. It's what makes us human. And Boromir shows us that no matter how far we fall, we always have the choice to rise up and be better.
would have followed you, my brother. My captain. My king. Be at peace, son of Gondor.
Hey y'all, thanks for checking out the video on Boromir and why I think he is, one, my favorite, and two, what I believe to be the most important character in The Lord of the Rings. This video was made pretty rapidly over the course of about just a couple days with not much scripting, so I apologize if it feels disjointed, but I wanted to try doing something that is a little shorter than my first video, but something more deep and meaningful, something that I actually really cared about. I want this content to be reminiscent of what this channel is supposed to be about. It's about talking about the depth of storytelling and what makes storytelling so beautiful. Not so much analysis, but a celebration of the meanings of story and how it can affect our lives. I think it went well. I enjoyed this video. Perhaps you did too. Anyways, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like or forward the video to someone else if you think that they will enjoy it as well. Anything to get the channel off of its feet so that other people can enjoy this stuff, and hopefully I can make some more stuff in the future. I know it took a bit of time for this video to come out, but I'm going to try to do my best to do maybe 1 or 2 videos a month, just so that I don't have to constantly be working on video content when there is a large plethora of other things that I do with my life. Once again, if you have any suggestions on how to make the video better, or if you have suggestions on stuff that we should cover in the future, please leave them in the comments below. And I hope to see you next time. Peace.